All right, so Miguel Cotto is going to be fighting James Kirkland early 2017. Okay, a fight that not surprised by. I think there were whispers about these two fighting a couple of times in the past. All right. Listen, I don't really feel any way about it. Miguel Cotto does not hold a title right now at 154 or 160. And at this point in his career, I think his career is already solidified. There's nothing monumental he can really do at this point unless he were to fight Canelo Alvarez in a rematch and possibly beating him in a rematch. There's really nothing he can do in this point in his career, and especially if we're just talking 154. Okay, there's personal fights I would like to see, but I'll get to them later in this video. All right, so Miguel Cotto still being trained by Freddie Roach. This will be his last fight in his Rock Nation contract. He had a 3-fight deal with Rock Nation. The first fight was with Daniel Gill, where we saw the knockout in that fight at 160. And then he fought against Canelo Alvarez in a fight that he lost a decision to. Was a competitive fight. It was a pretty good fight, but Canelo got that. Some people argue that Cotto won. I was rooting for Cotto, but I thought Canelo got that fight. All right. And Cotto hasn't fought since then. That fight was sometime last year, late last year. I think it was like November. I believe it was November. But anyway, now he's fighting James Kirkland. Kirkland is coming off of the loss against Canelo, who they both last fight was against Canelo. And Kirkland was knocked out in dramatic fashion. It was one of the most violent knockouts we've seen in the last few years in boxing. All right, Canelo, I believe he knocked him out in like the 3rd round, maybe the 4th, but somewhere early in the fight. And we haven't seen James since then. And that fight was even before the Miguel Cotto fight. Okay, Canelo beat them both back to back. But it was early in the year when Canelo fought that guy. And I believe Kirkland is going to return with his original trainer, Ann Wolf. And I'm going to speak on that briefly. Let me speak on that briefly because, I don't know what it is with people. They feel like James Kirkland is so much better with Ann Wolf. I don't agree with that. I never agreed with that. I think he is better with her. I'm not saying that he's not. I think his training is definitely more intense. He said this out of his own mouth. Okay. I know he had his first knockout loss, I believe, was when he wasn't with Ann Wolf. But I also thought that Kirkland was losing damn near every round until against Carlos Molina, until Molina got knocked down and the fight was stopped because someone in Molina's corner stepped into the ring. Okay, he was being trained by Ann Wolf in that fight. So I think the whole Ann Wolf thing is a little bit of a myth. All right, but if people want to think he's unbeatable with her, then whatever. I think she's better. I think he definitely needs her, should use her, but in the fights without her, if he were to fight, certain people with her as well, like if he were to fight her with Canelo, okay, I think Canelo would have knocked him out anyway, just as early. That's just we'll never know, but that's just my opinion, okay? There's no way to really know any of this. But Ann Wolf is supposed to be returning, and, that's good because we want James to be at his best. We don't want to hear any excuses. This is probably his last big shot at a big fight. Because I personally feel like James Kirkland is that guy that's dangerous, but he's safe at the same time. You get what I'm saying? Like at 154, these big name guys want to fight him, instead of fighting the Charlos or the Andrades or some of the other fighters at 154 that are a little bit dangerous, a little bit more dangerous. Lara, like guys, Cotto's not gonna fight guys like them at this point in his career. He's not going to. You're gonna pick the guy like James Kirkland because we all know how dangerous he is, but he's still not as dangerous as some of these other boxers at 154. It's like Guerrero at 147. Like, I feel the same way. He has a name. He's been in big fights. He's been in fights with big names as well, but he's not the most dangerous opponent. And it's funny I'm saying he's not as dangerous because the dude's KO ratio and his wins is insane. All right, he knocks out just about everybody he's beaten. But he also gets knocked out too. And as far as predicting this fight, it's very easy to predict. Either Cotto's going to knock him out or James Kirkland is going to knock him out. Cotto can knock him out at any given point of this fight. It could be as early as the first round. Okay? But if Cotto let this fight go late and James is going to fight at the same pace throughout the whole fight, we can see Antonio Margarito 1 type of ending to this fight if Cotto isn't able to stop him probably the first half of this fight. All right. My prediction, Miguel Cotto's going to knock him out. He could be with Aaron Wolf or not. I think Cotto is going to win this one by knockout. I do think it's going to be within the first 4 rounds, maybe 5 rounds. Okay. But I do think Cotto will knock him out. And I think Cotto could win a decision. If he doesn't get the knockout, I still think Cotto could survive a fight with James Kirkland. Cotto has been in there. He's been beat up a lot of times in his career, and he survived. Okay, Canelo tried to stop him late in that last round. Floyd tried to almost stop him late in that last round. All right. Joshua Clottey, we already know what happened in that fight. All right. Pacquiao, the fight was stopped in the last round, but Pacquiao was dominating him for many rounds. All right. Cotto's been through wars. So whatever Kirkland has, I don't think it's going to be enough to stop Cotto, but it's very possible. It's very possible. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Cotto and where I see his career going from here. If Cotto is going to win this fight and look dominant winning, I think it's a good time to retire. Like I said earlier in this video, I don't expect him to fight the best guys at 154. I don't expect him to do much at 160. All right? I don't expect him to go down and fight at 147. I think he will fight someone at 147. I would love to see him fight Tim Bradley. I've always wanted that fight. Both of them fight on HBO. They both were with Top Rank, but the fight can be made. It's not like the fight can't be made. It's just a fight that I've always wanted to see. I think both guys would give each other a good fight, and I've always wanted to see that fight. That's the only realistic, desirable fight I have with Miguel Cotto before he retires. That's all I can really say, about Cotto and his career. I would like him if he were to retire after this fight, win or lose. His career is already solidified as, one of the greatest Puerto Rican fighters ever. He's personally one of my top 5 favorite boxers of all time. All right. But I think his career is already solidified, and anything more would be a little bit too dangerous for him at this point. I mean, he's a name at this point. He doesn't even need a title. He had a title at 160, 147, 140, 154. He already held titles at those divisions. He really doesn't need a title, you know. Regardless of what I want, I just don't see him beating the top guys at 154. And it's a good way to go out because he got a big contract with Rock Nation. He made a lot of money with them, and he doesn't really need to fight anymore. He doesn't really need to. Like, why wait until someone Bernard Joe Smith you? Why wait for that? You saw what happened to Bernard Hopkins just now. Like, why would Miguel Cotto just wait around? Listen, you're already rich. Okay, you keep sticking around, someone's gonna knock you out. All right. And as far as James Kirkland, it's his final shot. I believe that it's just his final chance to get a big fight. At this point, you fought Canelo already. You're gonna fight Miguel Cotto, and if you were to win, it can revive your career, and you can go on and maybe challenge some of these up-and-comers at 154, or we can get, some random fights with two names, like with another name, or maybe one of the up-and-coming guys or whatever. But I just think this is his last shot to really revive his career. I don't know how much he's getting paid for this fight, but I'm sure he's probably getting the most he can possibly get at this point of his career, especially coming off of that knockout loss. He is fighting Miguel Cotto, so it should be good money, decent money at best. But he's not going to get this same kind of money fighting anyone else at 154, unless it was Canelo Alvarez again, So that's how I feel about this fight. It's no real reason to give a full breakdown. My prediction is Miguel Cotto by knockout, stoppage, or whatever. That's my prediction. I think Cotto can weather the storm. I think Kirkland would have to win by knockout. All right, because if it does go to the judges, I don't think he'll do enough. I think Cotto's clean punching, and I think boxing ability is going to give him the advantage, and it's going to win him over with the judges, especially in the first half of the fight. But Cotto will slow down, and the later the fight goes, Plus, not only that, but Cotto has been more active than James. All right, he hasn't been extremely active. Obviously, he didn't fight this year, but overall, he's been more active than James. James has been in and out of the ring. There's been gaps in his career, and then he has a lot of stuff going on outside of his career as far as with the law and everything. So overall, I just think it's Cotto that's going to take this one. And that's it. So let me know what you guys think on the fight itself. And I would like to really hear what you guys think about Cotto's future. Both fighters' future, but both really just mainly Cotto. Because should Cotto retire after this fight, win or lose? Should he retire? If you don't think he should, what fights do you want to see Cotto in at this point of his career? Do you want him to fight the top guys at 154? You know what? There's one thing I want to bring up. If he could, try to get that rematch with Austin Trout. Let's get that. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Just because I think, a lot of people back then questioned whether or not Cotto was at his best that night. A lot of people don't feel, and I'm talking about, when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about when the fight actually happened back then, not recently. Now we just say, well, Trout beat Cotto. But I remember when the fight actually happened, a lot of people said that Cotto looked like he didn't prepare for that fight. He had a different trainer at the time. And a lot of people just didn't really believe that Cotto was at his best that night. So if he could have a rematch with someone at 154, it should be Austin Trout, because I think that fight would still today be competitive. Maybe not. I don't know. But I say Tim Bradley. I would love to see that fight. Maybe they could fight at a catch weight in between 154 and 147. And it's just like one of my fan favorite fights that, one of my personal fights that I always wanted to see. I can't really think of anybody else right now, but that's a fight that I think is possible. Okay. All right, and if he does stay, if he is gonna stay, I don't want him to stay to fight guys like Gabe Rosado, like guys like that people always tend to fight. Like I feel like Kirkland is one of those guys. I think like Kirkland and Gabe Rosado are two fighters that people love getting in a ring with. Like those two guys, they seem to always get fight no matter how many times they lose. Like the champions or the top fighters always like fighting those two. All right. So let me know what you guys think, and make sure you guys hit subscribe.